Hi, this is Mary Colbert with Divine Health Podcast.
And I'm Dr. Don Colbert.
Hey, we are excited about this podcast that you're about to listen to that we recorded with Dr. Green. Don, you were so full of information.
Oh, Mary, we talked about everything from COVID and what to do with COVID and about this iodine nose spray. We talked about the Mediterranean diet and my new book coming out that is Beyond Keto. That's the Mediterranean Keto Diet.
I think you're going to enjoy this podcast. It's so full of information. You want to stop and take a listen, get your notepad out because Don is about to just pour out a ton of information. Enjoy.
We pray that this will bless you and look forward to talking to you next time. God bless you.
So Dr. Don Colbert is with me, and I'm always excited to have him back. Mary Colbert is with me as well, and she's a wealth of knowledge. These two together, there's the brain trust, and lots of lives get changed when you're in the presence of the Colberts. Mine's one of them. They continue. Every time I'm with them, I learn something. Just in passing, just in a 5 or 10 minute pre-interview, I learned so much from them. So Dr. Don, it's so great to have you back. Mary, welcome back. Let's kind of dive in with who you are and your approach to disease and health. It's not the traditional way, but that doesn't mean it's anything less. It's, if anything, it's much more. So tell us your philosophy toward health.
Well, first of all, I take a whole person approach to health. So many doctors just take body parts. For example, a cardiologist, they just focus on the heart.
Yeah.
Whereas the orthopedists just focus on the bones and joints, as well as, you have a urologist that focuses on the prostate and the bladder. You have gynecologists. And then you have the primary care. They're supposed to be focusing on the whole body, but what they focus on primarily is medicines. We don't have a medicine deficiency. What we have is we have a body that is usually exhausted, tired, nutrient deficient, not enough rest, not enough of the living foods that literally prevent disease.
Yes.
And what I do, my approach for decades has been first and foremost, let your food be your medicine. What a crazy concept people think.
Yes.
But guess what? When we do that, we generally have we don't have any drug reactions. We don't have generally any adverse reaction. Now, what people do develop sometimes, and that's why I wrote a book on this over a year ago called The Gut Zone, they develop gut reactions mainly due to medicines, antibiotics and anti-inflammatories and proton pump inhibitors, acid suppressants. And so what I do is, again, I take a natural approach with their food, but also what I do is I clear toxic emotions. I clear trauma out of people.
Yes.
And so many people get in a thought rut where they have a someone done me wrong thinking attitude.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally will eventually lead to bitterness, unforgiveness, and every toxic emotion that keeps the stress response on high alert. So guess what happens? They get tired. They can't sleep. Mm-hmm. And literally their mind is on that someone done me wrong song. So I clear that out. We have miracles every week, almost every day.
Crazy.
One thing, Don, also, it was so funny. We were in Washington, D.C., and Dr. Jeremiah Wright was...
David Jeremiah.
Jeremiah
Wright, not Jeremiah Wright.
No, not
That's
wrong
Obama's
one.
preacher.
He was on, we were in Washington, D.C. together, and Don was talking about his book, Let Food Be Your Medicine, and I'll never forget him laughing, going, well, isn't people doing that already, making their food their comforter? And so what Don does, it's a different kind of food, let food be your medicine.
Living
not
food.
Your comforter.
Yeah, God's food.
God's food.
And that's why
There's bad food to the body, and then there's healthy food
right.
to the
That's
body.
why for over 20 years I've been teaching the proper diet. I started with the Mediterranean diet over 20 years ago in the book, What Would Jesus Eat? And then I wrote a book, I wrote a book, I Can Do This Diet, which was a modified version of the Mediterranean diet. Then I did a book, Let Food Be Your Medicine, which is another modified version of the Mediterranean diet. Then I did another book, The Keto Zone Diet, which was an amazing program for weight loss. But then I found out that people in the keto diet were eating slabs of bacon, sausage, sticks of butter, slabs of cheese and cream, drinking cream by the cupful, and then coconut oil and fried foods and huge T-bone steaks and porterhouse steaks. And I'd check their cholesterol to be off the map. I'd say, what on earth are you doing? So then I said, something's wrong with this program. So I had to limit their saturated fat. I had to put them on a keto or a Mediterranean keto version of the program. I had to put them on fiber. I had to put them on more living food and veggies and healthy, low glycemic fruits. Amazing. Cholesterol dropped like a rock.
So we talked in the pre-show a little bit about intermittent fasting, and you seem to be in favor of that. Do you normally ask people to do it, or do you really care?
No, I love intermittent fasting. In fact, by far, my healthiest patients that have the least disease are the ones who practice intermittent fasting on a regular basis. 16 hours
16
is
hours.
ideal, where they
That's what
fast
I
16 hours a day and eat in an 8-hour window. And I talk about this in detail in my Fasting Zone book. But I do this too with my new Beyond Keto diet, which is my Mediterranean keto, because when you take in a lot of those healthy fats like this high phenolic olive oil that is so heart and blood vessel healthy for you, as well as avocado oil, which has the highest smoke point of any oil on the planet, so you can cook with that, you can fry with it. It's good for you. That's what we cook my eggs in. My wife does. I don't cook them. She cooks them. And then all these
good at it.
nuts and all these seeds are so good for us. And let me just give you a little study, because you say, well, how do you know this? Well, the Predimed study was over 7,000 men and women, and it was a huge study, and it actually put patients, divided them into 3 groups. One group, they gave them the Mediterranean diet, and they had to consume a liter, which is approximately a quart, of olive oil per week. And another group, they put them on the healthy Mediterranean diet. Now, there's unhealthy Mediterranean diet with lots of bread and pasta and stuff, but they put them on a healthy Mediterranean diet along with 1 ounce of nuts. You say nuts, any nut, pretty much any nut, but it had to be 1 ounce, which is 2 tablespoons. And then the other group, they put them on just a low-fat diet. Well, something amazing happened. These researchers found that those people in the 2 Mediterranean diet groups, whether they were taking in a liter of olive oil a week or an ounce of nuts a day, both of them decreased their risk of all heart disease and death from all heart disease, as well as stroke, by an amazing 30%. Now, that's as much as a statin drug.
Now, they have to make sure they don't have diverticulitis, because seeds and nuts for
Well, no,
those-
all you
that
do,
group,
that doesn't
you
even
can't.
matter. You just
Right.
grind your seeds and nuts. It won't
Right.
even matter. And you take psyllium husk powder.
So can you get me off of statins then? All of us who have had little heart procedures.
Well,
who are on
again,
statins?
we can, but the thing
Depends.
with a statin drug and what every cardiologist wants to do, they want to get your cholesterol, your LDL cholesterol, down to 70 or below. Now, that's what a statin will do. It'll get that down, and it'll keep it down, which will prevent the plaque formation in your arteries. So that's okay.
And my long-term use of statins aren't going to be that much longer, maybe 10,
Well,
20
the
years.
thing is, as long as most people with statins, and your heart doctors don't do this, you need to be taking CoQ10 at least 100 and preferably 200 milligrams a day. And make sure you get the CoQ10 without soy. Most all CoQ10 has soybean oil, which is it's a polyunsaturated fat that rancidifies, and it will cause more oxidation and more free radical damage. So
So there is most CoQ10.
yes, most
has
has soy. So get one that doesn't. We have one at my office called UBQH. You can get Qnol, CoQ10, but those are good. Now, again, the CoQ10, when you're on a statin drug, your body doesn't produce enough CoQ10. So as a result, people on statins get tired. They get lethargic. They get muscle aches, muscle pains. And so the CoQ10 will help to prevent that. Also, many times their liver tests go up. So they actually had to increase the range of liver functions, because so many people on statin drugs, their liver was becoming inflamed. And so they had to raise the range up so that they wouldn't be flagged as having inflammation in their liver. So that's why a lot of people on statins have to put...
My doctor asked me if I was
I know,
drinking.
see there?
He thought I was taking alcohol.
Oh, wow.
Right. And that's because statins, and again, a lot of doctors don't even know this. We put them on a simple little supplement we have called Liver Detox. All natural. It just cleans the liver right out.
The big mistake that a
Good.
lot of people make is they believe because a person has an MD or a DO that all medical doctors know the same thing. And that is a
don't.
false belief, because you just stop and think about a school teacher. Do all school teachers know the same thing? No, they each have their own field that they've dove into and that they've become experts at. So to think that all doctors should know what Don knows is crazy. It's crazy, because they won't know. You go in and ask your doctor about something that Don says, and or he teaches, like on our podcast. We have a
argue.
podcast that we're doing now to teach people what to do on all kinds of diseases. And then people listen to the podcast and they write down the supplements, they write down what his recommendation is. Then they go in and see their doctor and they look at the patient like they're looking at a deer in headlight. Where did he learn that? Where did he find that out? So we get a lot of pushback from the medical community because the biggest mistake people can make is to think that they are the center of the universe and that all knowledge flows through them. And that if just because you haven't heard about it or you haven't learned it doesn't mean it's not true and it's not good. And so when we approach health in that it is a growing, fast-growing, knowledgeable area, that's why Don has done so many books. One of the biggest questions I get is, if you've read Dr. Colbert's, any of his diet books, well, he basically is saying the same thing in different books. That is false. It is
So false.
because each book that he has written toward dietary guidelines has been specific, like going to a Thanksgiving dinner, you have turkey, you have dressing, you have all kinds of vegetables, and yet each food is completely different and you pick and choose what you want. Well, his books gear towards specific diseases or specific programs or specific people who are battling with things. And he's had to write so many different diets because there isn't this one broad brush that fits all. There isn't. We're all so uniquely made. And that's why he's done so many different kind of diet books, because this will work for one, but that won't work for another. Now, the closest thing of a broad brush would be the 7 Pillars of Health. Everybody needs that book. And his new Beyond Keto book.
Those are key principles of health that will never change.
Never change.
Those 7 principles of health.
Absolutely.
That is key.
It's
Now,
timeless. They're never going to
exactly.
change.
Now, the 7 pillars of health. But let me tell you this. Going back, for example, let me just give you throw something out there that everyone can do that'll protect them from COVID. Here's a
Right.
simple little thing
Right.
that costs pennies a day that everyone can do, and you can get it at your CVS or Walgreens, or you can get it online, Amazon, or you can get it from a pharmacy. There's a little betadine nose spray that you can use that kills all cold viruses, that kills COVID. And again, it's been proven, it shows that. Actually, it says destroys, on the bottle of this one, betadine nose spray, it says destroys SARS-CoV-2 virus, okay? Within about 10 seconds. So one of them is called, and you can get them online. You can get what's
a
called
nose spray,
It's
right?
a nose spray, and I use it. I carry it with me, and I just spray one spray in one nostril, usually in the morning when I leave, and one spray when I get home from work.
If you know you're going to be around people.
Yeah, if you're going to be around, you
groups.
can do it 3 times a day. Now, kids under 6 should consult their doctors, but kids,
So
one spray in one nostril.
One
yeah.
nostril.
And it doesn't
don't do
burn
both.
or anything.
I do both nostrils.
I do both nostrils, yeah. And because that's where COVID enters generally, is in the nose. And it attaches to those ACE2 receptors, and then it spreads throughout the body. And so when you spray that in your nose, if you have any, if you've been around someone, yeah,
been in an elevator.
exactly. Someone's coughed or sneezed around you, then boom, it kills those viruses right away. But it's called, one of them is called Cofix, like COVID Fix, RX nasal spray. Another is just betadine cold defense. And you can get that, like I say, online, and the Walgreens and CVS's and Walmarts are starting to carry it. But it's
you
new.
like
It's so new. Some places don't have it. I love them. I use it. I just used it this morning. So I swear by it. And there's other brands that are coming out. You don't have to get these brands, but all it is a little bit of iodine. Iodine is diluted down, right? And so it doesn't burn or anything, but it kills viruses on contact. It'll protect against the flu and colds. Cold viruses, all other viruses, and even the COVID-19, which is amazing. So that's a simple little thing we can do to protect ourselves.
That's so good. That's worth listening to you today. I'm always blessed to get you in the studio, but
He is such a wealth of information. John Hagee used
He
to say,
is.
listening to Don Colbert's like taking a drink from the fire hydrant because there's just so much it'll gush out. He's like a little teapot. You turn him over and it all starts pouring out.
Well, also, since we're talking a little about COVID, let's just give them a little recipe that'll protect them. The most important thing you can do to protect yourself against COVID is get your vitamin D3 level checked. Now, unfortunately, most doctors don't do this. I check it on every patient that I see. Everyone I see gets a vitamin D3 level called a 25-OH-D3 level. The key is getting that vitamin D3 level up to 55 to 100. When you're in that sweet spot, then it supercharges your immune system. And that's probably the number one defense and the most important thing you can do.
Especially going into the season
Yes.
of the winter right now. People
Because-
need to hear this.
Right. Your body, when your vitamin C is optimized, produces these antibodies as well as these peptides that actually help to kill viruses. It sparks our immune system, our thymus gland. It strengthens our immune system. But another really important is zinc. Just 30 milligrams of zinc a day. And you can get that most everywhere. Now, back a couple of years or a year and a half ago when COVID was rampant, you could find zinc nowhere. Luckily, I bought a bunch when I first saw this thing that came out back in February and March of 2020, and I bought a bunch, so we had it for our patients, but just 30 milligrams of zinc a day, real simple. It works absolutely amazing. Those are the two most important. But also vitamin C is good, 500 milligrams twice a day. I personally like the buffered vitamin C. Quercetin, 250 to 500 milligrams twice a day is good. And I use that. And also melatonin, 3 to 5 milligrams at bedtime is great.
Now, quercetin comes from apples. And so I like to tell
Right.
people, that old adage, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. So I encourage people, eat you an apple. That's got a lot of quercetin in it.
Now, the other thing I put most of my patients on is a prescription. It's ivermectin. You say, oh, isn't that a horse dewormer? Well, it can be used for that. But realize over 4 billion people around the world have used ivermectin. It's one of the most used and lowest side effect medications on the planet. But what it does, according to studies out of Bangladesh, it shortens the severity and the duration of COVID. And I put my patients on 2 milligrams per kilo of ivermectin, and I give it to them usually once a week, and it just helps their immune system.
It's an
It's a pill.
injection?
It's a pill they take.
Oh,
And we have 2 offices. We have one office in Texas, and we have one here in Lake Mary, Orlando.
why'd you do that, Mary?
Why
do you have 2
Because she loves to travel.
Oh, jeez.
Well, who doesn't
Oh,
love
man,
Florida?
I tell you
right?
what, I have forwarded our mail to American Airlines because I'm on a plane more than I am a car. But my grandchildren live in Texas, and they were here and they moved there. And so Don,
They didn't realize I would move there. I had to get my license in Texas, jump through all these hoops, and open an office out there. So now we have people.
we have a nurse practitioner who's there and one that's here that keeps everything going. But what he does, on these 2 offices is people who need ivermectin, our nurse practitioners are able to call it in and help them. So we have done a lot of that in helping people with getting the ivermectin.
Do you take it prophylactically?
Yes, we do.
Like, so I should start.
Right, and what I do is, like I say, my patients generally take it once a week, and like many of them take it on a Sunday, and then if they get COVID, then they take it every day for 2
Yes.
weeks or so, and then if it's not taken care, we'll boost it up to 0.4, which is 2 pills a day, or even 3 pills a day until we get this thing cleared up. And the sooner you take it, the better. And for all the patients that have asthma, or if they have COPD, or if they have lots of comorbidities, then we tell them, hey, and if they get COVID, they start coughing, it starts getting their chest. We put them on budesonide. Budesonide inhaler solution for inhalation with a nebulizer is a lifesaver. And I've had so many people, we saved their lives with that. Now, let me tell you something. I've treated a lot of people with COVID pneumonia, and so many people nearly died with that COVID pneumonia. But we literally, the budesonide pulled them out. But then they developed severe scarring in their lungs. And they come to see me, and I use something that helps tremendously, and I use IV glutathione. This IV glutathione is amazing. It literally
helps speed the healing in their lungs.
Right, the scarring, it helps tremendously restore the lung function in those patients. I give it to them once a week, and we have seen absolute miracles with IV glutathione.
And we do Myers IV.
And also, we have them go to the health food store. We just get N-acetylcysteine, usually 500 milligrams twice a day, and many times that'll help. And that's dirt cheap. It's real cheap, and it converts to
You're an
glutathione.
encyclopedia
I know. That's
of
what
medicine.
Well, these
and
are supplements because there's no. In
Sure.
fact, you know what? There's pharmaceutical companies that are trying to buy up the N-acetylcysteine. They want to make it into a drug because it's so effective. And so you can just go to your health food store. It's real inexpensive. N-acetylcysteine,
For now.
500 milligrams twice a day. It works
Yeah.
amazing for complications from COVID.
And we do Myers IVs.
Oh, Myers
in
IVs,
both
amazing.
offices to help restore people's adrenals because you become exhausted.
What happens with COVID, people get so much brain fog and so much fatigue. They come in exhausted, spent, and they have no energy, and they can't think, and they can't do their job. So we have a simple IV that contains IV vitamins and minerals like pantothenic acid. It has IV vitamin C. It has magnesium. It has B
And you
complex.
don't
It
need
has
to see
B12.
the doctor for that. So
And we have them come in once a week, or if they're real bad, twice a week, and it takes about 15 minutes. And it's amazing how they feel afterwards. They say, wow, I feel supercharged. And it's just IV nutrition. And it's amazing how it restores the adrenals and helps with the brain fog and the fatigue.
And you know
That's great.
what Don's approach is do the body no harm. That's an oath that he had to take as a medical doctor, and
Sure.
it's sad to see that so many have drifted from that that vow they make as a medical
That
doctor.
oath.
But Don is of the belief: do the body no harm. Only give it what it needs. There's a commercial. I think Liberty. You only need to pay for what you need. And so Don believes
What a
in giving the
concept.
body what it needs. And what it needs is natural things. It's not drug
Well, yes, just like
drugs are a bridge. I know.
right, but just like you were talking about lowering cholesterol, and you were talking about statins, yes, they absolutely lower cholesterol, but they also can cause major issues. They can cause severe muscle aches, severe joint aches, inflammation of the liver, severe fatigue, low testosterone. And so again, a simple way is just do a smoothie with some strawberries and some organic kale and some Swerve granular.
I'm going to start that. That's a really good idea.
And it lowers cholesterol beautifully. It gives
Natural.
you energy, and it gives you all the veggies and the power. The fiber in there will lower cholesterol. One study found that kale lowers it about 10%, but raises HDL around 27%.
And it won't taste bad. because it's
Exactly. I have it every
berries.
morning and love it. And I had a patient that dropped her cholesterol by about 70 points, and many others.
What about blueberries or blackberries instead of strawberries?
Oh, blueberries and
Any
yeah, you
berries?
can do that too.
It-
Any berries, and I freeze my berries, or I get them frozen. Excuse me, they're frozen. They're in the freezer, and I just get about a half a cup to a cup, put them in the blender or the NutriBullet. Put 2 teaspoons of the Swerve. Now, Swerve's an amazing natural sweetener. It comes from erythritol with oligosaccharides. 2 teaspoons of that in there, along with about a cup to a cup and a half of kale. And you say, oh, it's going to taste terrible. No, it doesn't. It tastes delicious because the strawberries covers it. And you're getting all of that green, that dark green alkaline minerals in there. You're getting that lutein, you're getting the magnesium, you're getting all those tremendous vitamins, so it gives you tremendous energy, and it
it's
fills
good
you up.
because it's not high in sugar, which
Right.
a lot of
Slow
your
sugar.
juicing gets high in sugar, and that's
It's
a
got all the
negative.
fiber in it.
Yeah.
It's got all the fiber from the
Right.
kale and the strawberries, which is wonderful at lowering cholesterol.
See, God has an answer, Dr. Green.
Well,
for
sure. He created
everything.
us.
And he does. And so what Don is doing, I mean, he literally has dreams at night. He'll wake up in the morning at
All
breakfast
excited.
and go, I had the strangest dream. I've got to write this down. And I have watched, we've been married 40 years, and I can tell you the truth. In his dreams, God will download him things
It's a gift.
to bring to the body of Christ to heal. And so God has natural means in the earth of amazing things. There's a new supplement Don just found out about. We were at a trade
Oh my,
show.
this is amazing.
He's so excited about this because he's dealing with kids who have
Yes.
autism. When I tell you God has an answer for everything, I mean he does. And this supplement, what it does for the brain, do you want to tell them?
Well, first of all, every year I'll go to this huge expo of all the nutraceutical products that are coming out each year. It's in Las
For
Vegas. It's
medical
huge.
professionals.
No, it's for people that are in supplement business. And so, again, I'll walk the aisles. It's a huge exhibition, and I'll find all the new products from all over the world.
That's getting ready to hit the market for manufacturers like us.
And so I'll just walking through there praying and see which ones the Holy Spirit kind of guides me to. And so, again, one of these products I found that really struck my interest because as we age, our cell membranes will eventually become defective, so they don't operate well. As a result of our cell membranes throughout our body, our brain, our heart, our even our mitochondrial membranes will become defective, so we lose energy. Well, there's a supplement that repairs cell membranes, mitochondrial membranes, which is composed of about 40 to 60% of phospholipids. Now, phospholipids come from certain foods we eat, like sunflower oil, soy, but very few people eat soy because a lot of people are allergic to it. So what this one researcher did is he removed all the allergic compounds from the soy. He took the phospholipids out, and all the key phospholipids that repair the cell membrane, the mitochondrial membrane. And when you repair that membrane, it is amazing how it like reboots the body. So your brain gets clear, and it also increases the absorption of CoQ10, which is your energy supplement, by as much as 200 times. And curcumin.
So you're going to have energy.
Oh my goodness. So the energy is crazy. What's going on? So when you put these things together, and it's called NT factor, and when you get, and again, we're going to eventually encapsulate, it becomes a little powder. We had a little couple of scoops in water in the morning, then take my CoQ10, and boom, energy just takes off. Brain power takes off. So it's something that we can do that's fairly inexpensive, and yet it gives you, and it repairs your cell membranes, not just in one area, but throughout your whole body. So it actually, we're using it too with my autism patients, along with other things like some stem cells and things like that, along with repairing the gut. Most everyone has gut issues. That's why I wrote the book, Gut Zone.
That's a great book. I learned so much from that book.
Well, thank you. But if we don't repair the gut, that's the foundation of health. And so many people, well, thank you. So many people come into my office, and at the root of their health problem are gut issues. And all the antibiotics they've taken, all the proton pump inhibitors, all the anti-inflammatories, they wreaked havoc on their
All
gut.
the meds they're on.
Sure. And many of these meds really hurt the gut. But when I repair the gut, generally speaking, the whole body will start to repair, because there's a strong gut-brain connection. I go in detail. So again, I could just go off on a tangent and talk about that, but I got to come back to that one study I was talking about. And this was the Predimed study. I talked about the Mediterranean diet, the two groups. I didn't tell you about the third group. The third group was the low-fat diet group. The low-fat diet group had the heart disease. They didn't have any improvement. So they took the people on the low-fat diet, like the American Heart Association diet. They put them all on the Mediterranean diet. They said, we can't allow these people to die or develop heart disease or stroke. So they put them all on either the Mediterranean diet with the olive oil or the Mediterranean diet with the nuts. Now, I do the Mediterranean diet with both the olive oil and the nuts. And so I get double the benefit, I believe. Okay, so that's my new book coming out.
What kind of nuts do you use? I've been doing cashews every day, just a handful.
Well, that's fine. And any nut's good except for peanuts. Okay, that's not a nut. So I tell people, eat a handful of nuts, at least 2
Now,
tablespoons.
cashews is a man-made nut. You know
Well,
that?
no, it's not a man. It's actually a
it's-
seed. It's actually a seed. It's not a true nut.
Right.
But it's not as healthy.
some fat
not
in
as
it, though.
healthy as pecans, but it's okay. It's not going to hurt you. It's the
what I
best
wanna hear.
nuts are
There
are
you go.
pecans, walnuts, macadamia nuts, almonds. But again, realize that most of your nuts you get at the supermarket, they've been sprayed with soybean oil or some other oil, and they're full of salt. So if you get nuts, get you a bag of pecans that are, fresh,
off the farm.
that are not salty, that have not been sprayed with some toxic oil, and then you'll get so much more benefits out of them. And I talk about all this in my book, The Beyond Keto, the Mediterranean Keto Diet, because we want to reap these powerful cardiovascular benefits, but not just cardiovascular. Another major benefit is longevity. They actually took the Nurses' Health Study, which is a huge study of nurses with thousands of women, and they found that those women that followed more of a Mediterranean-type diet, that these women live longer, as defined as living to over 70 without any chronic disease. It actually helps longevity tremendously, following a Mediterranean diet. So there are just so many benefits. The brain benefits, amazing how the olive oil, especially this one ingredient in olive oil called oleocanthols. I know it's a big word, but it's a super polyphenol that protects the brain. It's one of the most powerful phytonutrients to protect the brain. It literally dissolves that beta amyloid, that's that bad gummy protein that's associated with Alzheimer's disease, and so does curcumin or turmeric. So again, these are Mediterranean ingredients in the Mediterranean diet that are so disease protective, and it has properties that are much more powerful than most meds. And again, most people have never heard of it. That's why I have a whole chapter on the power of oleocanthal in the Beyond Keto book.
Well, you two are just a blessing. We're about out of time, but before we do that, I want to talk about your podcast just a little bit. From your perspective, Doctor, what are you trying to do in your show? First of all, tell me when it's on, how often you do it, when you post it.
Friday is the date they release the new ones that have been recorded.
You started in April of this year.
Yeah.
So they're up there, and there's every one of them is a gold mine, right?
We're
Well,
covering every topic you can imagine on health.
And you two just go after it,
Well,
right?
we have a good time. We enjoy it. And again, we add humor, of course, and stories, lots of testimony.
It's easy to listen to.
But it's full of real information. What to get, where to get it, how much to take. I mean, people are loving that.
Good. Well, we got to keep that up, and I hope you all keep writing and keep podcasting and keep doing what you're doing to serve the kingdom of God. You're doing such a great
Well,
job
thank
of
you.
it.
Well,
we
I can
appreciate
tell you,
it.
it's a big world with a lot of sick people.
Yeah, it
It's
is.
amazing.
But you know what's exciting? Every day we hear miracle testimonies
Yes, we
of
do.
people that are set free.
That's got to give a
People-
little zip in your
Oh
hip.
my goodness, it's amazing how the testimonies we hear of every day, someone with some disease totally healed or much improved and just feeling so much better, set free.
It was exciting. Yesterday we had a young man come in who was been schizophrenic. And
3 years.
3 years.
Hearing
his,
voices.
His father is a pastor and just precious people, and they have just struggled.
Doctor
But-
said no cure, no
No
cure,
cure,
no
no
cure.
cure.
Of course.
The parents left weeping because of
Well,
what happened.
it was
yesterday.
amazing. I got to tell you that real quick
on.
because this kid was about 25 and he had schizophrenia, paranoid schizophrenia, 3 years, had these condemning voices saying, "You're dumb, you're no good, you'll never make it." Different voices he heard all day long. I saw him one time about 6 months ago. We put him on a good nutritional program, decrease inflammation in the brain, took him off the gluten, all the inflammatory foods, did a lot better. I said, "How are the voices?" "Well, they're real distant, but I still hear them." You hear one or multiple, still hear multiple. So yesterday we took him through what we call trauma therapy. And we found that he hadn't forgiven himself.
Sure.
These voices made him so condemned that literally he couldn't forgive himself. He thought he was dumb. He thought he was no good. He felt condemned. I said, "I bet you're hearing the voice that you've committed the unpardonable sin, that you'll never go to heaven." He looked at me shocked, like, "How'd you know? Who told you?" I said, "Well, I've treated a lot of schizophrenics. This is one thing that usually those voices tell them over and over." I said, "Well, that's a lie. That's not true." And so what I did is I took him through the trauma therapy. It only took like 10 minutes. But after 10 minutes, amazing. Voices gone. And then I had the father, who's a pastor, and the mother lay hands on their son. We prayed over him, and he received the Holy Ghost.
Praise God.
And it
that's
was-
a story to tell.
It was absolutely amazing.
Save that for a book, right?
And oh my goodness, the whole family walked out of there rejoicing. Now, this is something we see on a regular basis.
When we have staff that are fairly new come to work for us, in the very beginning, they think they're coming to an average medical doctor's office. And literally after a week of being there, they'll come in to my office crying, going, "I've never heard of so many miracles in my life. I didn't know these things could still happen."
Now, again, I don't heal all schizophrenics or anything like that. I'm not the healer,
We
I'm
know
just giving the body what it needs to heal, but then introducing them to the healer, okay?
That's
Who's
where it
Jesus.
starts.
Yes.
They got to get there first. Well, you two are a blessing. I thank you so much for being on the
Thank
show,
you for having us.
Sure.
coming to the studio. I know you have more work to do, so I want to get out of your way.
That's all right.
So you can have the studio and be blessed. But let me just say to everyone listening that things that you can do, re-listen to this podcast, listen to their podcast, and get some of these supplements started. Get a visit with Dr. Don, either here in Orlando or in Dallas, and get a real good visit with him. And I bet you're going to find yourself healed of whatever ails you.
God has an answer for every disease.
And almost always it's not a medicine.
It's
Okay?
not a
Almost
medicine.
always.
You've been listening to the Green Lines Podcast. I'm Steve Green on the Charisma Podcast Network. On behalf of my producer, Adley, we'd like to say to every one of you at the end of our show, Jesus came that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly. if you're not living an abundant life, I'll bet some food is the problem and maybe a leaky gut. God bless you all.